Edtech Monday Kenya is brought to you by the MasterCard Foundation Center for Innovative Teaching and Learning in ICT and Edtech East Africa. As e-learning grows and becomes an everyday part of our lives, integrating cyber safety to learner offerings has become just as crucial as the curriculum. In Kenya, the adoption of the internet as a learning tool continues to accelerate. With it comes concerns of online safety from parents, learners, educators, and stakeholders. What measures need to be put in place at regulatory level to ensure online safety? This month, we explore the ways and means that EdTech can be a key enabler for internet safety for learners in Kenya with our new moderator, Moses Kemibaro.
Hello and welcome to EdTech Monday Kenya, a monthly series of conversations. My name is Moses Kemibaro, your new host and moderator for the Kenya edition. This month, we look at using EdTech to enhance internet safety for learners. E-learning uptake in Kenya and globally has exploded during and beyond the pandemic. As internet adoption for learners continues to accelerate, there's a need to create more awareness and engage learners on the risks such as cyber attacks, cyberbullying, online predators, identity thieves, inappropriate content, sex trafficking, terrorist recruitment, and promotion. EdTech can help mitigate many of these risks associated with e-learning at scale in Kenya for learners, given the genuine concerns of learners, parents, teachers, and also school management. Education on internet safety for learners in Kenya and how EdTech can not only create awareness, but also help prevent different types of attacks has become a critical success factor for e-learning adoption. There's a need to understand the risks and threats to young learners online and how to recognize and counteract them. As we explore the ways and means that EdTech can be a key enabler for internet safety for learners in Kenya, we ask, what safety measures do you take to protect your children as they learn online? Please send us your responses on EdTech Monday at mastercardfdn.org to explore the conversation around using EdTech to enhance internet safety for learners. Allow me to introduce our panel this month, starting off with Kaburo Kobia, the head of production at Akili Network, Evelyn Kasina, the CEO at Evenet Communication Solutions, and lastly, our sign language interpreter, who is Rosa Molo. Please share your thoughts and insights on the current state of internet safety for learners in Kenya. Starting off with you, Kaburo.
All right, thank you so much, Moses. It's really good to be here talking about internet safety. The list you gave was quite scary. There are a lot of scary things out there. But I think the state is really, it's mixed, yeah? For some people, internet safety there's still such a big gap. For a lot of people, depending on your access, depending on your knowledge of internet safety and your experience on the line. So it's really, I would say it's a mixed bag. For some Kenyans, young people go online and they feel very safe, and maybe they're not exposed to all the dangers that we listed. And for others, it can be quite a risky place for them.
Absolutely. What about Evelyn? What do you think?
In your house, you have more internet-enabled gadgets than you have toilets. So
That's so true. Absolutely.
Yes. And that is very typical for at least most homes in the country. And you find that even in the villages, you will not miss to find an internet-enabled gadget, which means the technology is there, the access is there, and the users are there.
So Kaburo, maybe you can share with us, from the Akili perspective, you have a fairly popular TV station here in Kenya that I believe is reaching around 10 million people in the country. And I'm just curious to understand, when it comes to internet safety, what sort of content have you integrated into your platform? What sort of initiatives are you taking to improve the perspective in terms of both the EdTech aspect and also, from an e-learning standpoint?
Yeah, so Akili Kids is a TV station that we have, and yes, we broadcast across the nation. And we are very concerned about children's safety and family safety. Children live within a family. So when we want them to be safe, you have to equip the parent and the child. So what we did, we created a TV comedy series to reach families with ideas of how to stay safe online. For some parents, they don't use the internet, and yet their child will use the internet. Their child is going to grow up. We're hoping, Kenya is developing and growing. That child that might live in a rural area today without access to the phone, in a few years will have to use social media to find work, will have to go onto the internet, and then we're telling parents that you have to support your child to be safe online. So what we did is, what we want to do is role model that. So not everyone might have access to their phone. Some young people are not allowed to go online, but how do they get prepared? So the TV series Flash Squad role models it. So in the program, you will watch a child get bullied, or you'll watch a young person get phished. You learn the term phishing, what is phishing, and all of that. And then at the end of the TV series, what we do is we give, 3 ways that people can stay safe, or 3 ways that they can mitigate that risk that they faced. So that's the product that we have. That's our Edtech solution that we have in the market right now. We talked about a lot of bad things that happen on the internet, but there's a lot of good as well. And so we certainly want young people, children and families to go and use the internet. So yeah, our approach through Flash Squad is to build confidence, build savviness, so that they can be prepared when they go online.
In your case, Evelyn, you work very closely with parents, with students, with young learners, and showing them how to use technology to learn things, but also to stay safe online. What have you seen in your, in your work and what you're doing on the ground, as we say in Kenya, resolving these issues and empowering these stakeholders to stay safe online, but also to acquire the right skill sets and competencies to use these technologies in a safe way?
When we work with schools, we run a club called Wizkids Africa, where from the age of when your child is in kindergarten, we will help them learn how to be safe by just using day-to-day activities like the green lights, yeah? So you'll find that a typical child, even when they're on a phone, the one thing they know is how to go on YouTube, they know how to play a certain game. So if they're in a game and they really love playing this game, so we teach them safety from just understanding how the traffic lights work from that age. Then of course, graduating it according to age, you'll realize the conversation extends and it increases in the fact that when we're talking to teenagers, we have to give them real life examples of, how people are losing opportunities, how people are gaining opportunities. We teach them things like your digital footprint. The disadvantage of them being online is that they leave a footprint that could either build them or break them, right? So how can they use technology in a more productive way? So we engage them in that sense. But then also understanding that parents need to be engaged. So we tell parents, similarly to what we are doing for kids, we need to unplug. Yeah, so I call my teaching for parents, Parents Unplug, because we need to go back to default settings. I don't need to be a parent who is really techie, because I think parents, they come defeated because they say, Evelyn, I'm not a techie person. I don't need you to be techie. I just need you to understand that these platforms exist and there's nothing you can do about it. We are raising our children in an information age. So there's this new platform that is called TikTok that I find my children are in. I don't know anything about it. So because you are at this point, how can I bring you to the level of the understanding of your child so that you can help them? So sit down with your child and ask them, by the way, this platform, what is so interesting about it? What is it that you post? And out of that, you have conversations. And also I insist on, telling parents that you have to be interested in what your children are interested in, because how else do you help them? And so within the programs, we have those engagements. For parents, it's very painful, because, they'll come up and say, we don't have time. You talk to my children and do all these kind of things. But then it doesn't work when you're not on board. The teachers only have a certain limit. The government has a certain limit. Ultimately, that grounding has to happen from home.
So what you're saying to me, if I understand you correctly, is that parents have a very important role to play and need to be much more interested in the details of what their children are doing online.
Yes, because in the ecosystem of the child, the parent and by extension the caregivers, so the house managers and the nannies, that is the primary line of influence for any child, the home. Then it goes to the school because they spend more time in school. Then their society, now you realize that our children's playground has become digital. So it's hybrid. So they're either playing outside, and even if they're playing outside, they're on their gadgets. And if they're not playing outside, they're in their houses, they're on their gadgets. So their playground has morphed into the online space. So you find that in that ecosystem, it's the parents, the school, their society that is hybrid, and then the government. So by the time the government is coming to tell you, hey, Moses, you're not doing a very good job with your child, there is a 3-layer that has already, really disadvantaged that child by the time the government is taking its place. Yeah.
So it sounds to me, in the realm of internet safety, especially in Kenya, that really the there's the child, of course, but the young learner, but the parent seems to play an incredible role. It seems to be a very consistent theme. And maybe coming back to you, Kaburu, I would ask the question, you're running this, you're part of this Akili Kids, you're reaching a massive audience of parents and children. What do you say about the opportunities and challenges that exist in this space, and connecting, the educational part of it to the fact that we need to keep these young learners safe at all times?
Well, I know we're here to talk about technology, but I'll reiterate what Evelyn was saying. Really, the opportunity is to have strong relationships with an adult. And that's why we also made Crash Squad in a way that parents can also watch. It's a comedy. But what we want to do is create opportunities to have conversations with your child. We're doing an impact study right now to see the effectiveness of the TV show. And we're hearing that from parents, the parents, they don't know how do I even start this conversation with my child? That we've never talked about the internet, or we don't even have a relationship where we really talk. So that's what we're trying to do. With Akili Kids, we're looking to create those opportunities in front of the TV. Create an opportunity for the child and parent to have a light moment and then introduce that heavy topic.
Evelyn, I really want to come back to you, and I really like the way you sort of practically broke down, some of the role that the parents need to play, the fact that we need to be much more intentional and much more involved in how our children are staying safe online. And I'm just wondering, when you look at it sort of in a more macro level, the regulatory frameworks, I still feel there's a massive gap where parents are concerned, people like myself included, where we often don't feel that we have necessarily such a high level of responsibility. We presume things will be okay. And I just want to go back to our earlier conversation and the way you're very passionate about speaking to the issue of where a parent doesn't even know what they don't know. So how do we close that? How do we make it front and center of that internet safety conversation?
I think as parents, we need to stop panicking and understand that we are in a new dispensation. We need to stop saying this only happens to children in other places, because as long as you have internet at home, it could easily be your child. We should now realize that if I had, there's somebody who was being groomed, and this is where they're taking, somebody would, through a game like Grand Theft Auto, for instance, it is combat fighting. So your child is seated on a TV, and this is passive screen time. So they're just, that is combat training. Even when we hear now stories of children in the States where somebody just took guns and started shooting in a school, where did they learn that from? So if your child is playing Grand Theft Auto, it could easily be that child. So we need to get our heads to that space and ask ourselves, so if I have to be intentional with my child, where do I need to start? Okay, so it is getting interested in what they're interested in. If you have children who love playing games, have you played those games that you're buying yourself? You'll be dragged into a store and let's go buy this PS and let's go do this, but you have not sat and played that game as a parent to even just feel what it will make you, just have that experience. How will it make me feel? And if it is giving you jitters, imagine giving it to your child. So that is the space parents need to get to. My child wants to get on social media. I probably am on Facebook, and that is my threshold, that's my boundary. But my children are on all these other spaces. Come with them and sit down on Instagram and, flip through. We talk about bullying, KOT. There's nothing to celebrate about Kenyans on Twitter. We are global bullies. So how do we tell our children, you cannot be a bully when they follow you on Twitter and you're the #1 bully? You lose the moral authority. And I think now as parents, we need to sit down and ask ourselves, what is the kind of society we need to see, right? How am I modeling the society I need to see? And also come to the realization that you have to have uncomfortable conversations. The conversation around pornography, it's a matter of when, not if. You will have to have it. So start bracing yourself for it. It is better to start preempting it before they get into it.
Yeah.
The conversation about violence, the conversation about profanity, all that stuff, it's a matter of when, not if. Because as long as they have the gadgets, it's inevitable. As a country, we are privileged to really have good laws. We are really regulated, not to say that we cannot improve in certain areas. And some of the policies or actually I think maybe policies that could be added onto what we already have is to allow telcos the telco companies that are giving internet to homes, right? Like the way you'd subscribe to Safaricom for home, that is specifically being installed in a home. There's what we call the last mile, where the internet is now coming to penetrate into your house, right? If we could have firewalls at that point of the last mile so that any content coming through the house is secure. And if it is done massively like that, either in homes, in schools, in churches, I also keep saying in hotels, in restaurants, we need to have 2 sets of internet passwords so that kids are being given their own passwords and adults their own passwords, so that at least we are showing some semblance of responsibility when it comes to access of internet. So in all spaces where children are accessing the internet, if the firewalls could be put at that last mile, that will really help at least 90% of the kids accessing the internet. Also protecting spaces like cyber cafes, they still exist, where kids are going to bet and all these kind of things. Even having those spaces regulated in the sense that if you're going to allow children to come into those spaces, then you should have some compliance in place to protect the kids who are coming to use the internet in your space.
The question I'd like to ask is, where do you see the future of internet safety for learners going? And I'm thinking about, the context of, the world beyond, things like the metaverse, crypto, the transformation of what we consider to be the modern internet. And of course, now this again puts more strain on parents, more strain on teachers and even regulation. Where do you think it's going, and what are the steps do you think we can take within Kenya? And I'd like this to be fairly concise from each one of you. Yes.
It's hard to predict the future. I don't even looking at me to predict the future, but for sure, I think as we've said, children today, even if they're not on the internet now, they're going to be on the internet for work, their life, their whole life is going to be on the internet. So just to reiterate, maybe the conversations that we've had, what is important is having strong relationships with a parent, with an adult, and building, being. The internet is no different from your regular life. So, if you can have children be responsible, think critically, I think critical thinking is going to be so important for young people, because we don't know what's coming up next.
Yes.
But if you're ready to think critically about what you're being presented, have a strong relationship with adults, be open with other people and talk, then, hopefully you can make the best out of the internet, because there's a lot of good things that are going to come as well.
And Evelyn, again, very briefly, what do you see as the future?
Well, you talked about the metaverse, so I want to say that if your child plays Roblox, they're already interacting in the metaverse. I think for us right now, what is very critical so that we don't put a lot of pressure on parents is to start looking at COVID. When COVID happened, there are very many job opportunities that we didn't know existed that just came out.
Yeah.
I think what we need to do as parents right now is to engage in digital literacy. The same way we teach our children swimming as a life skill, things like coding for them will be a life skill. So that whatever opportunity comes, if they know how to code, it will be plug and play.
Yeah.
Yeah. Teaching them about the thinking, how to navigate through, sites. And it will be as simple as just going into your Google suite and can they create a PowerPoint? Can they transcribe? Can they do this? It's all there. So how do they manage to use the tools that are available to them to create stuff?
Great.
And I think if the one thing that we can do for our children is to just engage them, especially in coding, that will give them a big headway, because that is where everything is going. And because the jobs that are for them do not exist, it's good to create a foundation already.
Well,
yeah.
Thank you so much, all of you. You've given us fantastic insights. And I think from this conversation, we definitely have fantastic insights on where we are today, where the future is going, and more importantly, I think the different roles that stakeholders play in internet safety within the Kenyan context. So thank you all for watching this edition. Follow more of these conversations on the MasterCard Foundation YouTube channel and the Young Africa Works Facebook page. My name is Moses Kemibaro, and see you again on the next edition.
Edtech Monday Kenya was brought to you by the MasterCard Foundation Center for Innovative Teaching and Learning in ICT and Edtech East Africa.